The crimson sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the crystalline spires of New Avalon, the most prosperous human colony in the Outer Rim. Marcus Chen adjusted his ceremonial armor for the 100th time that morning, the quantum steel plates humming with protective energy fields. As captain of the Royal Guard, he had sworn to protect Princess Camilla Pemberton Wells with his life, but today something felt different. Wrong. The princess stood on the balcony of the palace's highest tower, her silver hair catching the alien sunlight as she gazed out over the sprawling metropolis below. For 3 years, Marcus had watched her grow from a spoiled Earth aristocrat into someone he genuinely respected. She had learned to speak with the colonists in their own tongue, had walked among the mining crews and farmers, had championed reforms that improved life for everyone on this distant world. But the woman standing before him now wore an expression he had never seen before. Cold, calculating, dangerous. "Your Highness," Marcus said, his voice carrying the formal tone required by protocol. "The council meeting begins in 20 minutes. Governor Harrison is expecting your presence for the trade agreement discussions." Camilla turned slowly, and Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Her eyes, normally a warm brown, seemed almost black in the morning light. When she smiled, it was the kind of smile that made hardened criminals confess their sins. "Oh, Marcus," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Always so dutiful. Always so loyal." Something was definitely wrong. Marcus had been trained to read people, to spot threats and deception from 1,000 meters away. Every instinct he possessed was screaming at him now, but he couldn't put his finger on exactly what had changed. "Is everything all right, Your Highness?" he asked, his hand unconsciously moving closer to the plasma pistol at his side. Camilla laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Everything is perfect, Marcus. Absolutely perfect. Tell me, have you ever wondered what it would be like to rule an entire star system?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. In all his years of service, Princess Camilla had never shown the slightest interest in political power. She was third in line for the throne back on Earth, with virtually no chance of inheriting anything significant. Her assignment to New Avalon had been largely ceremonial, a way for the royal family to show they cared about the outer colonies. "Your Highness, I think perhaps you should speak with the palace physician. You seem unwell." "Unwell?" Camilla's laugh was sharper now, edged with something that might have been madness. "I've never felt better in my life, Marcus. Never seen things more clearly." She moved to her desk, a massive piece carved from Avalonian crystal, and began gathering papers into a briefcase. Marcus recognized several of them as classified documents, items that should never leave the secure areas of the palace. "Your Highness, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from those documents." "Are you giving me orders, Captain?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus had faced down alien predators, space pirates, and political assassins, but he had never felt as threatened as he did in this moment. The woman he had sworn to protect had become something else entirely, something dangerous. "I'm asking you to comply with security protocols, Your Highness." Camilla sealed the briefcase with a sharp click and turned to face him fully. Security protocols. How wonderfully human of you, Marcus. Always following rules, always doing what you're told. It's what makes your species so predictable. The words hit Marcus like a hammer blow. Your species. No human would ever phrase it that way. His hand moved to his weapon in one fluid motion, but Camilla was already moving. She dove behind the crystal desk as Marcus drew his plasma pistol, the weapon's targeting system immediately locking onto her position. "Who are you?" Marcus shouted, his training taking over completely. "Where is Princess Camilla?" "She's right here, Marcus," came the voice from behind the desk. But it was different now, colder, alien. She's been here for weeks, watching, learning, becoming so much more than she ever was before. Marcus keyed his comm unit with his free hand. Palace security, this is Captain Chen. Code 7 in the princess's quarters. Possible shapeshifter infiltration. Oh, Marcus, the thing wearing Camilla's face said as it stood up slowly, hands raised in mock surrender. You humans and your paranoia. I'm not a shapeshifter. I'm something much worse. Explain. Now. I'm exactly who I appear to be. Princess Camilla Pemberton Wells, third in line to the throne, beloved by the colonists, trusted by the council. Her smile was terrible to behold. The difference is that I've been improved. The briefcase sat on the desk between them, and Marcus could see classified planetary defense codes scattered across its surface. Whatever this thing was planning, it involved the security of the entire colony. Improved by whom? By the consortium, of course, though I suppose you know them by their more dramatic name. The Void Syndicate. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. The Void Syndicate was humanity's greatest enemy in this sector of space, a collection of alien species united in their desire to see human expansion halted permanently. They had been quiet for months, leading many to believe they had given up their aggressive stance. Apparently, they had simply changed tactics. When? Marcus asked, keeping his weapon trained on her center mass. The night of the Aurora Festival 3 weeks ago. You remember, don't you? When dear Camilla disappeared for 6 hours during the celebrations? When she claimed she had gotten lost in the gardens? Marcus remembered. He had been frantic with worry, organizing search teams throughout the palace grounds. When Camilla had finally appeared, she had seemed shaken but unharmed. He had attributed her odd behavior in the following days to trauma from whatever had happened during those lost hours. They didn't replace me, Marcus, the thing continued. That would have been too risky, too easy to detect. Instead, they enhanced me, gave me new knowledge, new perspectives, new appetites. I'm still Camilla, but I'm also so much more. You're a traitor. I'm an evolutionist. Humanity has had its time in the sun, Marcus, but it's time for a change. Time for species with greater vision to take the lead. Marcus saw movement out of the corner of his eye and spared a quick glance toward the balcony. A sleek helicopter was rising from the palace landing pad, its rotors barely making a whisper of sound. Camilla followed his gaze and smiled. My ride has arrived. I hope you'll understand if I cut this conversation short. She moved toward the balcony with inhuman speed, the briefcase clutched in her hand. Marcus fired twice, but his shots went wide as Camilla rolled and dodged with reflexes no human should possess. Stop! Marcus shouted, pursuing her onto the balcony. The helicopter hovered just beyond the railing, its side door open and waiting. Marcus could see alien figures inside, their multi-jointed arms reaching out to help Camilla aboard. Thank you for everything. Marcus, Camilla called over the noise of the rotors. You've been a wonderful guard. It's almost a shame that you and everyone else on this planet will be dead within the hour. She leaped for the helicopter with impossible grace, her enhanced body easily covering the distance that should have been too far for any human to jump. But Marcus Chen was no ordinary human. He had been born on Earth, in the sprawling megacity of Neo-Singapore, where gravity was artificially enhanced to 2 times Earth normal. He had trained in the asteroid belts, where combat took place in 3 dimensions with no up or down. He had survived the siege of Proxima Station, where he had held off alien raiders for 6 days with nothing but a broken weapon and sheer determination. And he had not sworn an oath to protect Princess Camilla Pemberton Wells, just to watch her betray everything humanity had built in this corner of the galaxy. Marcus vaulted over the balcony railing without hesitation, his combat armor's gravitic compensators activating automatically. For a moment, he hung in the air between the palace and the helicopter, the ground far below rushing up to meet him. Then his hand closed around the helicopter's landing skid, and he hauled himself up with strength augmented by 3 years of enhanced gravity training. The aliens inside the aircraft were not expecting a human to perform what they would have considered an impossible feat. Marcus used their surprise to his advantage, drawing his plasma pistol and firing into the cockpit before they could react. The pilot, an insectoid creature with compound eyes and clicking mandibles, slumped forward over the controls. The helicopter immediately began to list to one side, its automated systems struggling to compensate for the loss of pilot input. "Marcus!" Camilla's enhanced voice cut through the noise of the failing aircraft. "You magnificent fool! You've doomed us all!" "That was the idea," Marcus replied, pulling himself fully into the cabin. 2 more aliens waited inside, both armed with energy weapons that hummed with deadly power. Marcus recognized them as hegemony shock troopers, elite soldiers bred for combat in low-gravity environments. Unfortunately for them, Marcus had been fighting in low gravity for most of his adult life. He rolled left as the first alien fired, the energy beam searing the air where his head had been moments before. His return shot took the creature center mass, sending it tumbling out the open door into the crimson sky below. The second alien tried to close to melee range, extending wickedly curved blades from its forearms. Marcus ducked under its first swing and drove his elbow into its thorax, feeling chitin crack under the impact. A quick follow-up shot finished the job. Camilla watched the brief battle with something that might have been admiration. Impressive. The consortium's psychological profiles of human warriors were clearly inadequate. "Where are the real defense codes?" Marcus demanded, keeping his weapon trained on her while trying to stabilize the helicopter's flight path. "Real codes? Oh, Marcus, you still don't understand. I am the real Camilla. Everything I told you is true. I've just been upgraded." She opened the briefcase and Marcus saw that it contained more than just stolen documents. Neural interface equipment, quantum encryption devices, and what looked like a small antimatter charge were nestled among the papers. Upgraded to betray your own species? Upgraded to see the bigger picture. Humanity is a young race, Marcus. Aggressive, expansionist, and ultimately doomed to destroy itself. The consortium offers a better way forward. Peace through unity, prosperity through cooperation. Slavery through conquest, you mean? Semantics. Camilla shrugged, and the gesture was somehow wrong, as if her body was remembering movements from a different species entirely. The helicopter was losing altitude rapidly now, its damaged systems finally giving up the fight against gravity. Marcus could see the palace growing larger below them, along with the city beyond. If Camilla's claims about everyone dying within the hour were true, then whatever plan the consortium had set in motion was already in progress. "What's the real target?" Marcus asked, preparing for what he knew would be their inevitable crash. "The orbital defense platform," Camilla replied calmly, as if they were discussing the weather instead of plummeting toward certain death. "The codes in this briefcase will allow consortium forces to disable the entire grid. Once the platforms are down, their fleet can move in and take the colony without resistance." Marcus felt a cold rage building in his chest. New Avalon was home to over 2 million human colonists. Families who had traveled across the galaxy to build better lives for themselves and their children. The orbital defense platforms were the only thing standing between them and complete annihilation. "How long until they move?" "The fleet is already in position at the edge of the system. They're just waiting for my signal that the platforms are down." The ground was rushing up fast now, and Marcus could see palace security teams scrambling across the landing pad below. He had maybe 30 seconds before impact, 30 seconds to prevent the conquest of an entire world. He looked at Camilla, this woman he had sworn to protect, this enhanced human who had betrayed everything she had once stood for. The briefcase sat between them, its contents representing the doom of 2 million innocent people. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. For what? Marcus Chen, captain of the Royal Guard, servant of the throne and protector of humanity's furthest outpost, smiled grimly as he made a choice that would haunt him for the rest of his life. For this. He grabbed the briefcase and threw himself out of the helicopter, leaving Camilla alone in the doomed aircraft as it spun toward the ground below. Marcus hit the palace rooftop hard, his combat armor's impact dampeners screaming in protest as they absorbed the force of his fall. The briefcase flew from his hands, scattering classified documents across the crystalline tiles. Above him, Camilla's helicopter spun out of control before crashing into the palace's east wing in a ball of flame and twisted metal. Rolling to his feet, despite the pain shooting through his ribs, Marcus immediately began gathering the scattered papers. Each document represented a piece of humanity's defense network, information that could not be allowed to fall into consortium hands. His comm unit crackled to life as palace security teams converged on his position. "Captain Chen, report your status," came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Torres, his second in command. "Torres, listen carefully," Marcus gasped, stuffing papers back into the damaged briefcase. "The princess has been compromised by the consortium. The orbital defense platforms are the primary target. I need a secure channel to Defense Command immediately." "Sir, that's impossible. The princess has been with the council for the last hour, discussing trade agreements." Marcus felt ice form in the pit of his stomach. If Camilla was still alive after the crash and had somehow made it to the council chamber, then she was exactly where she needed to be to cause maximum damage. "Torres, evacuate the council chamber now. Code Black emergency protocols." "Captain, I'm looking at security feeds right now. The princess is sitting calmly in her assigned seat, taking notes on Governor Harrison's presentation. She appears completely normal." Normal? That was exactly what made her so dangerous. The consortium's enhancement process had left her looking and acting like the woman Marcus had sworn to protect, but with loyalty to humanity's enemies burned into her enhanced neural pathways. Marcus sprinted across the rooftop toward the nearest access hatch, the briefcase clutched against his chest. He had to reach the council chamber before Camilla could transmit the defense codes to the consortium fleet waiting at the edge of the system. The palace corridors blurred past as Marcus ran, his enhanced conditioning allowing him to maintain a pace that would have exhausted a baseline human in minutes. Startled servants and officials pressed themselves against the walls as the captain of the Royal Guard thundered past, his armor still smoking from his dramatic arrival. "Torres, I need a complete communication blackout of the council chamber." Marcus spoke into his comm as he ran. "No signals in or out. Effective immediately." "Sir, that would require authorization from—" "I'm giving you that authorization under emergency protocols. Do it now." "Understood, Captain. Comm blackout initiated." Marcus burst through the doors of the council chamber like an avenging angel, his plasma pistol drawn and scanning for threats. The assembled officials gasped in shock at his dramatic entrance, their voices rising in confusion and alarm. At the head of the long crystal table sat Princess Camilla, exactly as Torres had described. She looked up from her notes with an expression of mild concern that was absolutely perfect in its innocence. "Marcus, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice carrying just the right note of worry. "You look terrible." For a moment, Marcus almost doubted himself. The woman sitting before him was exactly the princess he had known for 3 years. Same voice, same mannerisms, same unconscious habit of tucking a strand of hair behind her left ear when she was nervous. Then he noticed the briefcase. An identical briefcase sat at Camilla's feet, positioned exactly where she could access it without attracting attention. Marcus felt his blood turn cold as he realized the scope of the consortium's plan. They hadn't just enhanced one briefcase worth of stolen documents. They had created 2. "Governor Harrison," Marcus said, never taking his eyes off Camilla. I need you and the council to evacuate this chamber immediately. Captain, this is highly irregular, the governor protested, his weathered face flushing with indignation. We're in the middle of crucial negotiations that could affect the economic future of this entire colony. The economic future of this colony won't matter if we're all dead in the next 10 minutes, Marcus replied grimly. Camilla's expression shifted subtly, and Marcus caught a glimpse of the alien intelligence lurking behind her familiar features. It was like watching a mask slip, revealing something cold and predatory underneath. Really, Marcus, she said, standing slowly. You're frightening everyone with these dramatic declarations. Perhaps you should speak with the medical staff about stress management. Perhaps you should explain why you have classified defense codes in that briefcase. The chamber fell silent. Governor Harrison's eyes darted between Marcus and the princess, uncertainty written across his features. The other council members shifted nervously in their seats, unsure whether to flee or demand explanations. What briefcase? Camilla asked innocently. Marcus raised his weapon slightly, and several council members screamed, "The one at your feet! The one containing orbital defense platform access codes that you're planning to transmit to a consortium fleet." Marcus, Governor Harrison said carefully, Princess Camilla has been here for over an hour. She couldn't possibly have accessed any defense codes. She accessed them 3 weeks ago, Marcus replied, pieces of the puzzle falling into place in his mind. During the Aurora Festival, when she disappeared for 6 hours. The consortium didn't just enhance her, they had her memorize everything she would need for this moment. Camilla smiled, and this time she didn't bother hiding the predatory intelligence behind her eyes. Very good, Marcus, though you're only partially correct. She moved with inhuman speed, grabbing the briefcase and diving toward the chamber's large windows. Marcus fired twice, but his shots struck the reinforced crystal instead of their target. The window exploded outward in a shower of glittering fragments as Camilla launched herself into open air. Marcus rushed to the shattered window and looked down. 4 stories below, Camilla was picking herself up from a landing that should have killed any normal human being. Her left arm hung at an odd angle, clearly broken, but she still clutched the briefcase in her right hand. Torres, the princess is on the ground level, heading east toward the communication arrays, Marcus spoke into his comm. She's enhanced beyond normal human capabilities. Use caution. Copy that, Captain. Teams are moving to intercept. Marcus holstered his weapon and climbed through the broken window, using his armor's magnetic clamps to control his descent down the palace's outer wall. Behind him, he could hear Governor Harrison shouting orders for medical teams and demanding explanations that would have to wait. The palace grounds were in chaos as security teams swarmed across the manicured gardens and crystal pathways. Marcus dropped to the ground and immediately spotted Torres leading a squad of guards toward the eastern communication complex. Torres, hold position, Marcus commanded as he sprinted to join them. I need to take point on this. Sir, what exactly are we dealing with here? Enhanced human with consortium neural programming. She has the reflexes and strength of their shock troopers, but retains all of her knowledge about our security systems. Understood, Captain. The communication arrays rose before them like metallic trees, their branches reaching skyward to maintain contact with the orbital defense platforms. If Camilla could access the primary transmission array, she would be able to send the platform access codes directly to the consortium fleet. There, Lieutenant Torres pointed toward the central array tower. Movement on the 3rd-level maintenance platform. Marcus could see a figure moving among the transmission equipment, working with the practiced efficiency of someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. Even from this distance, he could tell it was Camilla. Can we cut power to the arrays? Marcus asked. Not without shutting down all orbital communications, Torres replied. That would blind us to any incoming threats. Which is exactly what she wants, Marcus realized. Cut the power anyway. Better to be blind than defenseless. Torres spoke rapidly into her comm unit, and within seconds the great arrays began powering down, their lights dimming as their connection to the orbital platforms was severed. "That won't stop her for long," Marcus said grimly. "She'll have backup plans. The consortium always does." As if responding to his words, a new sound filled the air. The deep thrumming of gravitic engines growing louder by the second. Marcus looked up to see shapes descending through New Avalon's purple sky, sleek craft that moved with the predatory grace of hunting birds. "Consortium drop ships," Torres breathed. "But that's impossible. The orbital platforms would have detected them long before they reached the surface." Marcus felt his heart sink as he realized the full scope of the deception. Unless they were already in system when the platforms went offline for routine maintenance 3 days ago. The maintenance cycle that Princess Camilla specifically requested for her inspection tour of the defense network, Torres whispered. The first dropship touched down in the palace courtyard, its hatches opening to disgorge squads of consortium soldiers. These weren't the insectoid shock troopers Marcus had faced in the helicopter. These were hegemony centurions, 7-foot-tall humanoid warriors bred for planetary assault operations. "Fall back to the palace," Marcus ordered. "Establish defensive positions and protect the civilians." "What about the princess?" Marcus looked back toward the communication arrays, where Camilla was still working despite the power shutdown. She would have portable equipment, backup systems that could re-establish contact with the orbital platforms. "I'll handle her personally." Marcus broke away from his team and sprinted toward the arrays, dodging enemy fire from the landing dropships. The consortium soldiers were advancing across the palace grounds with disciplined precision, but they were focused on securing the main building rather than hunting down individual humans. That gave Marcus the opening he needed. He reached the base of the central array tower and began climbing, using the maintenance ladders and his armor's magnetic clamps to ascend rapidly toward the platform where Camilla was working. "I know you're coming, Marcus." Her voice drifted down from above. "You always were predictable. Predictable enough to stop you twice already," Marcus called back, continuing his climb. "You haven't stopped anything. You've simply delayed the inevitable." Marcus reached the maintenance platform and found Camilla hunched over a portable communication device, her fingers flying across its control interface. The device was clearly of alien manufacture, its crystalline structure pulsing with inner light. "Step away from the device," Marcus ordered, drawing his weapon. Camilla looked up at him, and for a moment her expression was purely human. Sad, almost regretful. "I really did like you, Marcus," she said quietly. "In the time before the enhancement, when I was still fully human, I enjoyed our conversations. You treated me like a person, rather than a political symbol. You're still a person, Camilla. The enhancement process can be reversed. Earth's best neurological specialists would spend years trying to separate my original personality from the consortium programming," Camilla finished. "Years during which humanity would continue its reckless expansion across the galaxy, claiming worlds and resources without regard for the species that were here first. That's not how we operate, and you know it. I know that humans are apex predators wearing the mask of civilization," Camilla replied, her fingers never pausing in their work. "The consortium showed me the truth about our species, Marcus. We're locusts. We strip planets bare and move on to the next world, leaving devastation in our wake. That's their perspective, not reality. Is it? Look around you, Marcus. This world was inhabited by the Solari before humans arrived. Peaceful, crystalline beings who lived in harmony with their environment. Where are they now?" Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien wind. "The Solari died of a plague decades before human colonists arrived. A plague introduced by consortium advanced scouts, yes. But the humans who founded New Avalon never bothered to investigate. They simply saw an empty world ripe for colonization." The portable device in Camilla's hands chimed softly. and Marcus saw status lights begin blinking in sequence. She was almost finished with whatever she was trying to accomplish. "Even if that's true, genocide isn't the answer," Marcus said desperately. "I'm not committing genocide, Marcus. I'm saving humanity from itself." The device chimed again, and Camilla smiled. "Transmission complete. The orbital platforms are now under consortium control." Marcus felt the weight of failure settle on his shoulders like a lead blanket. 2 million human lives, condemned by his inability to stop one enhanced woman with a portable transmitter. Then, his comm unit crackled to life with Lieutenant Torres's voice. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Chen aboard the UES Indomitable." Marcus blinked in surprise. Admiral Chen was his older brother, commander of the Third Fleet, and the UES Indomitable was humanity's most advanced battleship. "Marcus," came his brother's familiar voice over the comm, "I received your emergency beacon 30 minutes ago. The Third Fleet has been shadowing the consortium force since they entered the system. We were waiting for them to commit to their attack." Camilla's expression shifted from triumph to confusion to growing alarm. "You see," Marcus said, unable to keep the smile from his voice, "the briefcase I recovered from the helicopter didn't just contain defense codes. It also contained a complete record of consortium fleet positions and tactical plans." "That's impossible," Camilla whispered. "The consortium made one critical error in their psychological evaluation of humans," Marcus continued. "They assumed we would react to threats individually, emotionally, without coordination or planning." Above them, the sky began to fill with human warships as the Third Fleet dropped out of stealth mode. "What they didn't account for was the fact that humans are social predators," Marcus said. "When one of us is threatened, all of us respond, and we've been planning our response to consortium aggression for a very long time." Camilla's enhanced reflexes allowed her to draw a concealed weapon before Marcus could react, but her shots went wide as the communication platform shuddered under the impact of orbital bombardment. The consortium drop ships in the palace courtyard were being systematically destroyed by precise energy strikes from the fleet above. "This doesn't end here," Camilla snarled, backing toward the platform's edge. "The consortium has agents throughout human space, sleepers who won't hesitate to—" Her words were cut off as a section of the platform collapsed beneath her feet, sending her tumbling toward the ground far below. Marcus lunged forward, managing to grab her wrist just as she went over the edge. For a moment, they hung there together. The enhanced woman who had betrayed everything she once stood for, suspended over certain death by the man who had sworn to protect her. "Let me go, Marcus," Camilla said quietly. "The programming is too deep. I'll never be truly human again." "That's not your choice to make," Marcus replied, straining to pull her back up onto the platform. "Yes, it is." Camilla smiled one last time, the expression purely her own, free of alien influence. Then she twisted her wrist in a way that broke Marcus's grip and fell silently toward the crystal gardens below. Marcus watched her fall, this woman he had failed to protect from humanity's enemies, and felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. The consortium had made this personal, had taken someone under his protection and turned her into a weapon against her own kind. They would pay for that mistake. 3 months after the Battle of New Avalon, as the historians had already begun calling it, Marcus Chen stood in the war room of the UES Indomitable, studying star charts that showed the expanding front lines of humanity's counteroffensive against the consortium. The room hummed with activity as intelligence officers processed data streams from across the sector, their screens displaying real-time updates from dozens of human worlds. What had begun as a defensive action to save one colony had evolved into something far more significant: the first coordinated human response to consortium expansion. "The infiltration was more extensive than we initially realized," reported Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's chief intelligence officer. We've identified consortium sleeper agents on 17 different worlds, all enhanced using the same process they used on Princess Camilla. Admiral David Chen, Marcus's older brother, frowned at the tactical display. How many have been neutralized? 14 confirmed eliminations, 2 successful extractions for deprogramming research, and 1 who managed to escape during the operation on Kepler 62c. Marcus looked up from his own reports. The past 3 months had been a blur of counterintelligence operations, rescue missions, and strategic planning sessions. What they had discovered about the scope of consortium infiltration had shocked even the most paranoid members of human military intelligence. "The pattern is consistent," Marcus said, his voice carrying the weight of hard-earned experience. "They target individuals with access to critical infrastructure or defense networks, royalty, government officials, military commanders, people whose word carries weight and whose actions can affect entire planets. The question," Admiral Chen said grimly, "is whether we've identified all of them." Dr. Vasquez brought up a new display showing psychological and behavioral analysis patterns. The enhancement process leaves traces. Subtle changes in decision-making patterns, alterations in risk assessment capabilities, and most importantly, a complete reorientation of survival priorities from individual preservation to species-wide thinking. "Sounds almost admirable when you put it like that," Marcus observed darkly. "It would be if the species they were prioritizing was humanity," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Instead, they've been programmed to see human expansion as the primary threat to galactic stability." Admiral Chen activated the room's main display, showing a 3-dimensional map of human space and the surrounding regions controlled by various alien powers. Red markers indicated confirmed consortium positions, yellow showed suspected infiltration sites, and green represented secure human territories. The amount of red was sobering. "Intelligence suggests the consortium has been planning this infiltration strategy for over a decade," the Admiral said. "Princess Camilla was just the latest in a long line of enhanced agents." "What about the others who've been captured?" Marcus asked. "Any success with the deprogramming process?" Dr. Vasquez's expression grew troubled. "Limited success. The neural pathways created by the enhancement process are deeply embedded. We can suppress the consortium programming, but we cannot completely remove it without risking permanent brain damage. So they remain security risks. Controlled security risks. They're confined to secure medical facilities where they're helping us understand the enhancement process. Their cooperation has been illuminating." Marcus turned back to the star charts, his mind processing the implications. "What have they told us about consortium strategic objectives?" "The infiltration was phase 1 of a 3-phase plan," Dr. Vasquez replied, bringing up a new set of documents. "Phase 2 involves direct military action against human worlds with compromised defenses. Phase 3, she hesitated, and Admiral Chen nodded for her to continue. Phase 3 calls for the systematic relocation of human populations to designated preservation zones under consortium oversight. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The consortium wasn't planning to exterminate humanity. They were planning to domesticate it. "Like pets," Marcus said quietly. "More like a wildlife preserve," Dr. Vasquez corrected. "From their perspective, humans are a dangerous invasive species that needs to be contained for the greater good of galactic civilization." Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. "And they see themselves as qualified to make that determination. They've been the dominant power in this region of space for over 3,000 years, Dr. Vasquez said. From their perspective, they're the responsible adults dealing with unruly children. Children who happen to possess faster-than-light travel, quantum weapons, and a talent for improvised warfare, Marcus noted with grim satisfaction, which is precisely why they consider us so dangerous." The door to the war room slid open, and Lieutenant Commander Sarah Torres entered with a data pad in her hands. She had been promoted following her actions during the Battle of New Avalon and now served as Marcus's primary aide in the growing intelligence war against consortium infiltration. "Captain, we've received a priority transmission from Earth Command," Torres reported. "The Security Council has authorized Operation Lighthouse." Marcus felt a surge of anticipation. Operation Lighthouse was humanity's most ambitious intelligence initiative, a plan to turn the tables on consortium infiltration by developing human agents capable of penetrating alien society. "Timeline?" Admiral Chen asked. "First volunteer units begin training in 6 weeks," Torres replied. "Captain Chen has been specifically requested to lead the program." Marcus wasn't surprised. His experience with enhanced humans and his knowledge of consortium tactics made him the logical choice to develop countermeasures. Still, the weight of responsibility felt heavier than his armor ever had. "There's more," Torres continued. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activity in the Veil Nebula. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures consistent with consortium fleet construction." Admiral Chen brought up the relevant sector on the main display. The Veil Nebula was a vast region of interstellar gas and dust that provided perfect cover for hidden shipyards and staging areas. "How massive are we talking about?" the Admiral asked. "Preliminary analysis suggests construction on a scale we've never seen before," Torres replied. "Potentially enough firepower to threaten every human world simultaneously." The room fell silent again as everyone contemplated the implications. If the consortium was building a fleet capable of overwhelming human defenses through sheer numbers, then the infiltration phase had been just a prelude to something far worse. "Recommendations?" Admiral Chen asked. "We accelerate Operation Lighthouse," Marcus said immediately. "If they're planning a massive conventional assault, we need intelligence on their capabilities, their timetable, and their strategic weaknesses." "Agreed. Dr. Vasquez, what's our current understanding of consortium society and government structure?" "Limited, but growing," the intelligence chief replied. "Based on information extracted from captured agents, the consortium operates as a council of species rather than a traditional hierarchy. Each member species contributes according to their particular strengths." Which means, the insectoid hegemony provides military force, the crystalline solari handle logistics and communication, and the gaseous nebula dwellers serve as strategic planners. There are at least 6 other species involved, but we don't have detailed information about their roles. Marcus studied the display showing consortium territory. "A council structure suggests potential points of disagreement. If we can identify factions within the consortium, we might be able to exploit divisions." "Assuming they have any," Admiral Chen noted. 3,000 years of cooperation suggests a fairly stable alliance." "Or careful suppression of dissent," Marcus countered. "No alliance that large and diverse maintains perfect unity without some form of coercion." Torres activated her data pad and displayed new intelligence reports. "Speaking of dissent, we've intercepted communications from several independent worlds in the border regions. Apparently, the consortium's recruitment methods haven't been entirely voluntary." "Explain." "Worlds that refuse to join the consortium have been experiencing unusual problems. Crop failures, equipment malfunctions, communication disruptions, nothing that can be directly traced to sabotage, but the pattern is consistent." "Economic warfare," Admiral Chen concluded, "make independence so costly that joining the consortium becomes the only viable option." "It's worked on at least 12 worlds in the past 50 years, Dr. Vasquez added. "Former independent colonies are now full consortium members." Marcus felt pieces of a larger strategy clicking into place in his mind. They're not just targeting humanity, they're systematically absorbing every independent civilization in the region. "With humanity being the largest remaining holdout," Torres finished. "Which explains why they're willing to commit so many resources to containing us," Admiral Chen said grimly. We're not just an invasive species to them, we're an existential threat to their expansion model. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. Humanity, accused of being aggressive expansionists, was apparently preventing an even more aggressive form of expansion by a coalition of species that had been conquering worlds for millennia. "Captain," Dr. Vasquez said, bringing up personnel files on the main display. "Operation Lighthouse will require volunteers willing to undergo physical and psychological modification to blend in with consortium species. The risks are considerable." Marcus studied the files of potential candidates. All were military volunteers with exemplary records and specialized training in deep cover operations. All had been fully briefed on the likely outcomes of their missions. None of them expected to return home unchanged, if they returned at all. "How many volunteers do we have?" "More than we can use," Torres replied. "Word about Princess Camilla and the infiltration program has spread throughout the fleet. Personnel are lining up for the chance to turn the tables." "Screen them carefully," Marcus ordered. The consortium's enhancement process fundamentally altered their subjects' psychology. We need people who can maintain their humanity under similar pressures. Already in progress. Psychological evaluations are focusing on core identity stability and resistance to neural programming. Admiral Chen stood and moved to the viewport, gazing out at the stars beyond. "The real question is whether we can develop these countermeasures fast enough to matter. If the intelligence about consortium fleet construction is accurate, we may only have months before they launch their final assault." "Then we make those months count," Marcus replied, feeling the familiar weight of duty settling on his shoulders. Princess Camilla died believing that humanity was a threat to galactic civilization. Let's prove her wrong by being something better. And if we can't? Marcus thought about the woman who had fallen from the communication platform 3 months ago, choosing death over continued existence as a weapon against her own species. He thought about the 2 million colonists on New Avalon who were still alive because one royal guard had refused to let duty become complicity in genocide. Then we make sure the consortium remembers that humans don't go quietly into the dark. Torres began gathering the reports and datapads scattered across the conference table. "Orders for the fleet. Admiral, maintain current patrol patterns and continue counterintelligence operations," Admiral Chen replied. "All ships to remain at combat readiness. And Sarah?" "Sir?" "Start recruiting for Operation Lighthouse. We're going to need our best people for what's coming." As the meeting broke up and officers returned to their duties, Marcus remained at the viewport, watching distant stars that might harbor human colonies or consortium fleets or civilizations caught between them. Somewhere out there, enhanced humans were preparing to betray their own species in the name of galactic peace. Somewhere else, human volunteers were preparing to sacrifice their humanity to prevent that betrayal from succeeding. The stakes had never been higher, and the cost of failure had never been more absolute. But as Marcus looked out at the infinite darkness between the stars, he felt something that Princess Camilla's consortium programming had never been able to understand. Hope. Because humans had always been at their best when facing impossible odds, and this war was just another impossible challenge waiting to be overcome. The consortium might have 3,000 years of experience in conquest and control, but humanity had something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept that any challenge was truly impossible. Marcus turned away from the viewport and headed for the door, already planning the next phase of humanity's response to an alien threat that had made the fatal error of underestimating what humans would do to protect their own. The consortium wanted to preserve humanity in controlled zones, like specimens in a zoo. They were about to learn why predators belonged in the wild.